my user tries to act smart, gives me a date in future. So it asks me, for example, when I ask which year were you born in, it tells me, for instance, let's say I was born in 2045 on, let's say, January 31st. Now, clearly this date has not yet come, but unfortunately our program will still go through and it will tell me, in fact, by the next birthday will be on 2023, 31st January, because remember, to determine the next birthday, we have only looked at the day and the month. And it tells me accordingly that next day is 58 days away, but this is all meaningless because in fact the user has provided a date which couldn't have been his birthday because that is in future. The question is, how can we prevent this? And how do we, let's say, tell the user that he's probably acting smart? It's quite simple, provided we look at our code a little bit more carefully. Remember, we are creating a current time object. So, but we are doing that after telling the user what day of the week and so on was this particular birthday. Instead, let's say I take this line number 21, which is my current time object. Let's say I change the ordering a little bit and I take it all the way to the top. Right after the date of birth, I create this current time object. Now, why do I do this? Because now I can check if my date is in future or it's not. So if, the logic here is very simple. If, let's say, birth birth is less than current time, it means that this is like a valid date. I must put a colon here, remember. So if I do this, I want all of this to happen. And for all of this to happen, basically, I want all of this to be indented. So I select all of this, including my countdown. And so do not select the except, I basically go and click, let's say, a single tab, which gives it an indent. Now I am ending this loop over here. And instead, I'm going to say else, which means I've come down to the base indentation and I can just say else. I can print, let's say you were acting smart, born in the future, born in the future. And let's just make sure that indentations are all correct. They look okay to me. So let's just run this. So what's going to happen is that now, let's say my program asks me which year were you born. I say 20, maybe 45, 1, and say 31. It tells me you are acting smart. Were you born in the future? Now, you might wonder, why did I need a separate if else for this? Why couldn't my try and else catch these conditions? Well, because remember, these are not error conditions per se. These are, somewhat different because the user has entered numbers, which means they could be converted to integers, which means there was no, there was no error in, say, this set of statements. Similarly, these are valid dates, so which means there was no error also in creating the date time object. So it kind of went through, but we put an extra check and we caught our, user's prank, saying that, look, you're putting something which is in future, and hence I think you're acting smart. I'm not going to get fooled here. Before we wrap this up, let's just briefly again look at the indentations because that provides a clear picture. What we are doing really is that we had those try statements earlier. Now I've just brought the comparison to the current time earlier, and I say, okay, look, if the birth date is less than the current time, it means everything is valid. I do all of this, including the countdown. Else, I just say acting smart. Were you born in the future? And again, notice I have to indent this, and if and else will be same indentation, but this code as well as the print have to be on a single indentation. So the code is getting a little bit nested, but it's quite logical. Go through it slowly, and I hope this helps you. Take care. Thank you so much. Bye bye.